Good evening, I'm Christina Calger, and I live at 1021 Gardner Street in Raleigh at zip code 27607. And as you remember, probably I spoke to you about a month ago. I just wanted to ask if you, the members of the commission, have had a chance to read the packet of information that we provided to you before last month's meeting. And as you know from the cover letter, we actually have two requests. One of those requests is that you direct the airport authority to adopt a pledge that no further flights related to extraordinary rendition will occur. And this is a pledge that is being circulated and organized around in Europe too, but there, of course, the pledge that airports are being asked to sign is that they will not allow any rendition flights to transit through their airports on the way to pick up a detainee and render him or her. So we're asking you to sign a pledge that no flights related to an extraordinary rendition will be allowed to occur at the Johnston County Airport. As Mr. McGurk said, clearly if Aero Contractors has other business, then we're not talking to you about that. We're talking to you about their extraordinary rendition business.
You mentioned two requests. I understood the one that we asked them to adopt a pledge, yes. The airport authority adopt a pledge.
That's right.
And what was the other?
So the other one is, given all the mountains of credible evidence that Aero Contractors has been involved in criminal activity, conspiracy to kidnap, facilitation of kidnapping, basically like driving the getaway vehicle, if you will. And you may have heard in Allison's initial statement also the mention that there's strong evidence that on January 23rd of 2004, the woman who photographed Binyam Mohammed's mutilated genitals and exclaimed, "Oh my God," as she did so, is a Johnston County resident who works for Aero Contractors still until this day. So at the very latest on that date, Aero Contractors could no longer claim that they didn't know what they were engaged in, that they didn't realize these people were being flown to these places for torture, because that information became clear to Aero Contractors at the latest on that date. From then on, they knowingly conspired to participate in kidnapping for torture. So these are very credible allegations, and we're asking you to refer those to law enforcement authority. And if the Johnston County Sheriff doesn't have sufficient investigatory powers, then there are other law enforcement agencies that could be brought in as well. So those are the two requests, and we were hoping to get an answer from you tonight as to how you will act on those two requests.
Ms. Calger,
thank you.
May I say that, speaking for myself personally, and you guys, all of you, have a mission, and you have extremely, it's very apparent, extremely strong convictions. Pardon me personally, Wade Stewart, if in the area of your strong convictions, mine are not quite so strong, but I do have strong convictions in certain other areas. I mean, personally speaking, I'm as abhorred by child abuse is my main pet peeve, as you are by torture. And I feel like my convictions in that area are just as strong. Yours, I'm sure you have some strength in that area too. But I don't believe as strongly as mine towards child abuse. And I want to do everything I can to eradicate it. And I would approach groups, and just like you are approaching us with the Stop Torture, I would approach groups all the time, and I do it here on this board to do everything we possibly can to prevent abuse to any other minor or any other child. It's strong with me. Therefore, I can appreciate the strength of your convictions, but pardon me if my convictions in the area where you have strength are not as strong as yours. I don't think any of us condone torture. I feel that's true pretty much across the board. I will readily admit to you, because I will shoot straight with you, and I will will be extremely honest with you. I am still not convinced that some torture, waterboarding for instance, is not successful. You are convinced, and I'm sure Mr. McGurk is convinced that it does not work. There are many other military people today that are convinced it does not work, but I can find you just as many that are convinced that waterboarding does work. And there's no really irreparable damage done to a person by waterboarding, but yet it is still called torture. Therefore, your opinion on it and mine, Wade Stewart's opinion, is going to differ. And I would appreciate your respecting my position on it, just like I respect your position on it. If I feel like that if torture was not at times effective, surely it's not always going to be effective, because people's personalities are different, but if it were never effective, then for how many thousands of years people would have learned by this time, 2009, from their forefathers who passed the word down hundreds of years ago to them that torture don't work, don't try it. But apparently people have not been convinced yet that torture in some form does not work, or else it would have ceased 2,000 years ago because it didn't work. But at any rate, y'all are people of real strong convictions. I can appreciate that. And I'm going to ask the other board members if they have any comments at this time. And if anyone else in your group wishes to speak, please feel free to. We've got enough. I see a hand raised back there. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, thank you for yes,
Where's
please.
Timothy Hodges tonight? He got cut a little short last time. I want to make sure if he was here, he got a chance to say. Y'all know who Timothy Hodges is?
I do. I'm not sure where he is, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Stewart, I just want to say briefly in response to what you said, I appreciate you clarifying your opinion about torture. I do think that regardless of your opinion about the effectiveness of torture, that as a public servant and an elected official, actually the task before you is to enforce the law. And since torture is against the law, and conspiracy to torture similarly against the law, and since U.S. Code and the U.S.'s adherence to the Convention Against Torture are binding on all elements of government in this country, including local and state governments, that actually, regardless of your personal opinions about torture, your duty is, when you think there are credible allegations of criminal activity occurring from your airport, to refer those allegations to the appropriate law enforcement agencies, regardless of whether you personally favor the type of torture that Aero Contractors has facilitated.
Very valid point.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, sir.